I would certainly like to speak to someone about this, and what do you know? Michael Graham, creative director at Media DC, good enough to join me now from Washington. Michael, as I mentioned, a full plate is exactly what the secretary is inheriting on his first full day at State. What did you make then of the remarks that in a building that our Margaret Brennan today called one of the most demoralized in DC?
Well, there are a lot of people who look at the performance of that building the past 8 years and would wonder what the folks would be moralized about. But watching Secretary of State Tillerson now speaking, I thought of the clip you just played a few minutes ago of Vice President Pence saying, Donald Trump is the one man in charge in the White House. And you could kind of feel the shudder of Americans going, really? Just him? No, no, no. We want Rex Tillersons. We want these, steady hand on the till, kind of boring, business as usual guys. And I think that's what inspires confidence in Tillerson from people who have some questions about his lack of experience. There
had been reporting that men, perhaps of whom you speak, were upset at the travel ban that was executed this past weekend, right, perhaps not being in the loop until the very last. The remarks then from Secretary Tillerson also came in the wake of the president's warning via his preferred medium for Iran when he told the country that it is officially on notice in the wake of that missile test over the weekend. What do you think he means?
Well, we do a 100 Days podcast every day at WashingtonExaminer.com, and Jay McIntyre, our Pentagon guy, was on with me explaining how inside the Pentagon there's been a lot of frustration below the senior levels of the way that the Americans have been treated since the deal was signed. A lot of people have reasons to oppose the deal. Some people say it's the best you're going to get. But I think Trump's argument that, Iran gets literally pallets full of cash secretly sent to it. They get this great deal, and then they embarrass American sailors on the seas. They have these provocative missile tests. Where's the payoff for us? I think that is maybe the strongest case he can make. Of course, he makes it on Twitter with lots of hashtags.
Will the deal live?
In all honesty, I think that it depends on the Iranians. Before he was even talked about being Secretary of Defense, General Mattis said, essentially, this is the deal that we've planned for. This is the deal that the geopolitical reality has grown up around. We can't just walk away from the deal. But it's also the case that people around President Trump, including General Flynn, who came out yesterday and made that statement, are saying the least we can do is enforce the elements of the deal, make the Iranians live by it. And I think you could argue that what the Iranians are doing already is testing how tight those reins are going to be. And let's say that they do something that is indisputably a violation of the deal. It's one thing for President Trump to say, we're going to hold you to it. But if the European allies, if the Russians, if the Chinese don't come along, what good will it do? And I think that could really undermine any notion that the Iranian deal was a good deal for the U.S.
Diplomacy or a lack thereof, Michael, squarely in the crosshairs at this hour, if you will. The other dust up here deals with what, by many accounts, was a very heated phone call between Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull and the president over the weekend. In fact, the president seemed to allude to it during a wide-ranging set of remarks at the National Prayer Breakfast in Washington. I want to play just a bit of that and get you to weigh in on the other side.
When you hear about the tough phone calls I'm having, don't worry about it. Just don't worry about it. They're tough. We have to be tough. It's time we're going to be a little tough, folks. We're taken advantage of by every nation in the world virtually. It's not going to happen anymore. It's not going to happen anymore.
It was noted by one Democratic representative, Michael, that Australia is, in fact, the sole ally that has stood by America's side in every war that America has been involved in. But we heard that word tough. It seems like nothing to certainly be playing to a base. Is that what his supporters want to hear?
Absolutely, and not just the ones who are still mad about Crocodile Dundee 2 going to L.A. They're still upset about that. But no, seriously, I mean, I think it's important to put Trump in context. If you just said, starting from scratch, here's President Trump yelling at one of our staunchest allies, that seems crazy. But if you say, here's President Trump, who was handed a deal from the Obama administration that deals with people coming to the U.S. from Iran and Iraq, which is an issue, however you feel about that. And he doesn't like the deal. And instead of, bowing to the foreign leader or talking about how every country thinks it's unique, just like America does, he says, no, I don't like the deal. I told him it was a dumb deal. There are a lot of people for whom that resonates as far as the tone about how America is going to go forward. If you think that American weakness resulted in the rise of of ISIS and the collapse in Syria than hearing Donald Trump talking tough, even if it is to somebody that we should like, that's got some appeal.
But that's a big but. Michael, I mean, if there are many for whom this is just another example of fear-mongering. And again, it's one thing to invoke the Obama administration when it invoked the executive order this past weekend, but it's another thing to essentially harangue an ally's prime minister over a deal that had been done.
And this is the challenge with trying to move forward with President Trump. Is on the one hand, you see many people see a real problem. The Weekly Standard has written about it. America trying to lead from behind has had a lot of bad results. We think, to be more aggressive, to do more to reward Western values and uphold Western values. On the other hand, if the guy who's doing the toughness is also kind of a jerk, he's kind of a jerk. And so with Trump, either you have to take the good with the bad, or you have to be miserable for at least the next 4 years.
Okay. Well, then that really puts this one on a tee for me as I do let you go here. But I want to ask, you're a great follow on Twitter, need be said. Tweet you sent out today, and it reads, and I quote, "I'm celebrating the good, Gorsuch, Mattis, and shaking my head over the bad, Bannon, trade, general insanity." I would ask you, good sir, to unpack all of that for us.
Well, I mean, look, Supreme Court Justice Gorsuch is, for small government conservatives like myself, a dream come true. Imagine a Supreme Court where they actually just simply uphold the laws written and let states and citizens decide how they want to live. That sounds great. But the guy who gave us the Supreme Court justice is someone who has shown that he's not that interested in limitations on government. He's kind of a big government guy, and he does things that are embarrassing. As someone who's been long supporter of border security and thinks we have a real problem there, what happened this past week was embarrassing at our airports. Green card holders who live in America being turned away. So the way my wife describes this like this, she says, it's like the biggest jerk at work I know taking me out for a date at the best restaurant in America. I want to eat the magnificent meal, but I have to sit and listen to that guy the whole time. So all I can say is bon appetit.
Okay, and as we say bon appetit, and I guess I lied because I'm now going to get you out of here on this one.
Okay.
Specific to the idea of general insanity.
Right.
And I know perhaps we all use humor, however gallows, to discuss all of this. But, I had Frank Luntz on earlier today, a Republican strategist, and he said that he is gravely concerned for our democracy. General insanity can be pretty terrifying, no?
Look, I have a lot more confidence maybe in our democracy than Frank Luntz does. We've survived rough things before. We've survived incompetent presidents. Some would argue that we're just finishing up on that. We've survived corrupt presidents like President Nixon, openly corrupt. I think we can survive. I would just say that if you think of Donald Trump as being president the same way that your local dry cleaner manager runs his dry cleaners, then you are going to go crazy all the time. But that's why when Pence, that comment about he's the one guy in charge, the more we see Trump talking and tweeting and setting the general direction, we're going to get tougher, we're going to have new trade deals, et cetera. I think there's more opportunity for all of us to prosper together and be happy together. The more you see the specifics, the more you see him trying to micromanage, I think that's where the issues of temperament and style and tone will create problems. So, like I said, I hope that there are a lot of smart Rex Tillersons and Judge Gorsuches and on surrounding President Trump, and that they have a real impact on policy. You could have an amazingly successful 4 years with a guy you really don't like. That is a possible outcome. Or it could all blow up. So,
general insanity.
Exactly.
And the importance of dry cleaning. Michael Graham, as always, all rivers do lead somehow here.
Yes,
we do appreciate it.
My pleasure.